Welcome back. My name is Josh, and I thought I would give some tips and recommendations for those who are coming to Korea for the first time, and for those who might be returning and don't know anything that's happening in Korea currently. I'm going to give 7 tips and 3 recommendations. Tip number 1, mask. So as of now, you are required to wear a mask indoors. So recently, the Korean government took away the mask mandate for outdoors. So right now, you can walk outside without a mask. But what's happening right now is about 95% of Koreans are still wearing masks when they go outside. They're wearing masks because it's kind of like a show of respect to not spread anything or to also not get anything in return. So keep that in mind. So if you're from the US, you know that you're not really required to wear a mask outdoors, and in some places indoors, depending on the establishment. But in Korea, you're still required to wear it indoors. If you do plan on going outside, just know that people are still wearing their masks. So it doesn't really hurt to wear a mask, in my opinion, but that's really up to you and what you are most comfortable with and what you want to do. So in that case, I do recommend bringing a couple of masks with you. Tip number 2, get yourself a T-Money card. The T-Money card will be your main card for public transportation. So for example, subways and buses, which you will use a lot of when you're in Korea. The card itself will cost you anywhere from around 3,000 won to 5,000. It really depends on what kind you get. Now you can purchase this in some subway stations. Not all of them have it. Some of the big ones do, I believe. But I do recommend buying them at a convenience store. Pretty much every convenience store should sell T-Money cards, so you can purchase it there. I have this. This is my T-Money card. Not all of them look like this, but I got it because it's cute. It cost me a little bit more money, I think like a couple more dollars, but I was fine with it. I will look for what it normally looks like and I will post it here if I find one. Just to let you know, you can pay with a credit card to buy the T-Money card, but you cannot recharge it with the card. You have to recharge it with cash. That's the only way. So you will need to have some cash available in order to recharge the T-Money card. When you do buy it, whether it's through a subway station or a convenience store, you are going to have to activate it. If you buy it at a convenience store, you can activate it there. They will do that for you. But if you don't buy it there, then you have to activate it yourself. I do recommend to start to put around 10,000 to 20,000 won. That should pretty much give you enough leeway for any kind of travel for about a week. Right. Tip number 3, download Kakao Map or Naver Map. Google Maps is not that great in Korea. It will suffice as a backup and if you really need it, but you need to download Kakao Maps or Naver Maps. Now, if you know a bit of Korean and you can read Korean, Kakao Maps is definitely good for you. If you cannot read any kind of Korean, then Naver Maps is probably your bet because I do believe that they have an all English version. Kakao Maps is kind of a hybrid. You can change the app to English, but when you look for directions, it will give you the directions in Korean. That's just the only downside. So if you can't read Korean and understand what you're reading, then I do recommend Naver Map. So the thing that's really great about Kakao Maps, Naver Maps is if you put your destination in, it will give you directions on how to get there. Now, most of you probably won't have a car, so you don't have to worry about the car directions. But in terms of taking public transportation like the subway or buses, it pretty much lays out which bus you have to take, which number, and which subway stations you need to go to and what subway train or number you need to take. These apps are really great because it tells you detailed directions on what you need to do, where you need to go, even which train section you need to get on so that you can leave the station quicker or transfer quicker, and everything like that. It's just amazing. It tells you everything. Like the public transportation in Korea is so good. I do recommend you download Kakao Maps or Naver Maps before you come to Korea so you have it on your phone. Tip number 4, you need the right prong to fit into the wall socket for plugs, and the voltage is different in Korea compared to the United States. Now, I'm from the US, so I'm going to be speaking of that. If you're from a different country, I'm sorry. You have to do your own research. I forgot this before leaving for Korea. So luckily, my Airbnb host has some and he offers some to me. So he was a lifesaver. That really helped. You need 2 different types of things. The plug goes in here, and then This then goes into the socket. Now, if your adapter or your charger doesn't have the right voltage or it does not cover Korea's voltage, so the 220 voltage, then you will need to get something like, you will plug in the plug here, and then you'll plug this part into the socket. So if you have a lot of things to charge, then you will need a lot of these. Now maybe you can just get one or two and just swap whichever one you need and whatnot, but please keep that in mind. Tip number 5 is about money. You will need cash. There will be some establishments where they won't take credit cards. You will need to pay in cash. If you want to recharge a T-Money card, you have to do that in cash. Your card just may not work sometimes, or for whatever reason, for that type of restaurant or that place, you will have to pay in cash. So you should always have cash available and around. Now, when you arrive at the airport, depending on when you arrive, if you arrive in the evening, the banks may be closed, so you won't be able to exchange your cash or your money. So I recommend 2 things. Either exchange your money before you arrive in Korea, so you have some won with you, or you can go to one of the ATMs at the airport and get your money out that way from your bank account. Now, I do recommend you also bring one credit card that has 0 foreign transaction fees. That's the key. You need to have a credit card that has 0 foreign transaction fees. Now, if you don't have a card that does that, then you're gonna have to pay a lot of money in fees by using your card. I recommend just using cash. But if you do have a card that has 0 foreign transaction fees, definitely bring one. For the most part, if you're staying in Seoul, most like brick and mortars and establishments, they will accept credit card. So you can use it there. Whether you're going to a restaurant or you're buying something at a store, they for the most part will accept credit cards. But just in case your card doesn't work or they don't accept credit cards, you should always carry around cash just in case. Tip number 6 is no jaywalking. Hi, this is me from the future. So something happened to the clip. I don't know what happened, but I just wanted to say jaywalking is illegal in Korea. So please don't do it. You don't really see anyone do it. If you do see someone do it, they're most likely foreigners and they have no idea that jaywalking is illegal. So please don't do that. Tip number 7 is for subways and buses. And for those who have never been in Korea, this is my tip. You beep in and you beep out. Meaning that when you use your T-Money card to go into a bus, you have to beep in, and then when you're about to leave, you have to beep out. So what ends up happening is, for the most part in Korean buses, you have to walk in the front and you have to leave at the rear. All buses will have a door in the front where you enter and a door in the back where you exit. For the most part, you walk in the front, you beep in. When you're about to exit, you walk to the rear. There should be 1 or 2 machines there for you to beep out. Now for subways, it's more straightforward because if you want to enter the subway station, you have to beep in. And if you want to leave the subway station, you have to beep out. The reason why you have to beep out, because you may go further than the anticipated amount. So they may have to charge you extra. And this happens more so with subways when you go further than anticipated. So when you beep out, you have to give a little bit more money. Just a note that if you want to beep out and you don't have enough money and they do charge you extra, there should be a machine near the exits and the entrances where you can add more money there and then you can beep out. Also, another note for subways is each subway train has different numbers associated to them. If you look at the ground of where the subways are going to come, there should be numbers. And next to the numbers, there should be 2 arrows. Now those 2 arrows are where people are supposed to stand. So if you're waiting for a subway, don't stand in the middle of that or the middle of the door. Just stand where the arrows are. And if you're in a subway station where there's a lot of people, you will see that. So just follow their lead, just stand behind the line. Because what's going to happen is when the door opens, the people that are coming out are going to be coming out towards the middle. Now, don't be that person and block their way of coming out. Another good thing about the subway stations in Korea, just public transportation in general in Korea is just so much better than most of the world. What's great is that the subway station and the train itself has Wi-Fi. Now, I believe there should be free Wi-Fi also, but I'm not entirely sure how to use it. So that will be up to you if you want to try that. Now here are the recommendations. Recommendation number 1, getting a Korean SIM card. In order to get a Korean SIM card, you need to have your phone unlocked. If your phone is not unlocked, then you cannot do this. You cannot use a Korean SIM card. So I recommend calling your carrier and asking them, hey, can I have my phone unlocked? Hey, it's me from the future again. this segment kind of got messed up also. I don't know why, so I'll explain it here. So I think the easiest way is to get your SIM at the airport. That's the quickest and easiest way you can do it. Now, it may not be the cheapest. Now, if you want to go to one of the stores outside the airport, you're more than welcome to do that. It may be cheaper, it may not be. By how much, I'm not sure. It's really up to the carriers. I don't know their prepaid SIM plan, so your mileage may vary there. But the three carriers, the main ones in Korea, are SK, KT, and LG in that order. SK and KT are pretty much neck and neck, 1 and 2. LG is the least one that people use. So yeah, I still recommend at the airport. So if you can get it, then get it. Recommendation number 2 is downloading Kakao Taxi. Now, Kakao Taxi is similar to Uber and Lyft because Uber and Lyft doesn't exist in Korea. So the way Kakao Taxi works is it works very similarly to Lyft and Uber. You request a taxi and it will come to you and it will take you to the destination that you want. The only limitations for Kakao Taxi is you do need a Korean phone number. If you don't have a Korean phone number, then you cannot use this. Recommendation number 3 is delivery apps. Now, if you're never gonna get anything delivered to you, then this is kind of useless, right? But if you want to get something delivered to you, or if you are gonna get something delivered food-wise, then I do recommend 2 apps. Now, there are more than 2 apps, but the reason why I say 2 is because of how Korean online payment system works. The way it works is you need a Korean credit card if you want to pay for anything online in Korea. Also, a reminder for delivery apps is you also need a Korean number. If you don't have a Korean phone number, you cannot really continue on with creating an account. Just keep that in mind. So the first one I recommend is Shuttle. Now, Shuttle is nice because you can use an American credit card, but things on there are a little bit more overpriced and there isn't that many selection compared to the other apps. The second delivery app I recommend is called Yogiyo. In English, it's called like YOGI, then YO, I believe. You do not need a Korean credit card because upon delivery, you can either pay by cash or credit card. Now, it'll depend on if the restaurants allow it, but for the most part, you should be able to. Now, when the delivery person arrives, you can pay by your card, and when you give it to them, it may or may not work. If it doesn't work, just have cash in hand. And if it works, then that's great. We don't have to do anything. Now, I hope all these things help you before and during your time in Korea. If you have your own tips and recommendations, or if I forgot anything, put it in the comments below. And if you have any questions, also put it in the comments below. I do have more stuff coming out on my channel, so like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Peace.